And what's up, everybody? Welcome to the StormCast, the world's best podcast. We're live on YouTube and Twitter, bringing you the latest and the greatest news, stories, and updates going on around the world. I hope everyone is having a good week so far as we dive into today's Friday episode. I want to give a quick sound check. We sound good. That is good. All right. So let's jump right into it. Today's episode is going to be a good one. Shout out to everybody joining the live chat as we speak. I want to give you a little fit check. I'm pretty cold today. It's very cold. It's still here in South Carolina. Here in, February. We're still in the midst of winter. So, I'm still cozy down. Past couple episodes, I've been tucked in, nice and comfortable, rocking my Raiders hoodie. Shout out to my Las Vegas Raiders. And I got my neck warmer on under here, and my head cover on as well. So it'll be a nice little cozy episode. But that doesn't mean, we're not going to be talking about some of the most, uncomfortable topics going on around the world. So a lot going on in today's agenda, a lot going on around the world. But first, if you haven't checked out the last episode 46, dropped on, we talked about the World War III target cities. If World War III were to break out, which cities would be targeted. And it's looking like, we could be heading towards World War III here soon. With the conflicts going on, in the Middle East, in Russia, with Venezuela, now we're having beef with Iran, and then of course, everything surrounding Israel and their conflicts, which we support Israel so much, and their conflicts, which I don't think we should, but we do. So we'll talk all about that here in this episode as well. So yeah, we also have the Super Bowl coming up this Sunday between the Patriots and who the Patriots playing? The Seahawks. That's what they're playing. I don't really care about the Seahawks or the Patriots, but if I were to give a prediction, I would say that the Patriots come out on top with the W, and I'm gonna say the score will be 24-17. All right, so Super Bowl coming up this Sunday. Should be a good one though. Two really good defensive teams. So I think it's going to be a defensive battle. So before we get into some of our topics for today's episodes, let's jump right into some of the news going on around the world. Last weekend, we had the Grammys. Okay. So the Grammys were last Sunday. So here is everything you missed from the Grammys. Okay, let me pull it up for us. And let's jump right into our first news piece for today. All right, so the 2026 Grammy Awards have wrapped with the biggest trophies going to some of the most talked about projects of the year. Bad Bunny won Album of the Year for Debbie Terrar Ma Photo. Billie Eilish took Song of the Year for Wildflower. And Olivia Dean was named Best New Artist. Kendrick Lamar and SZA won Record of the Year for Luther. And Kendrick Lamar also made history by becoming the most awarded rapper in Grammys history with 26 total wins. Lady Gaga also had a big night, including Best Pop Vocal Album for Mayhem. All right, so I did not watch the Grammys. I haven't watched the Grammys since Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. I don't know if that was the Grammys or the. Yeah, I think that was the Grammys, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it the Grammys? Or the ESPYs or whatever you call it. I don't watch any of the award shows, all right? So I've stopped. That was the last award show I watched. Okay, so I don't have cable TV. So I'm not sitting around watching commercials for a show, glorifying and celebrating a bunch of idols. Idol worshiping is just not my thing. Maybe your thing. Y'all let me know whether you still watch these award shows. All right, so but if not, here's everything you did miss at the Grammys. So let's see what went on at the Grammys. So here we have Bad Bunny. Before he says, in quotes, "Before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say ice out. We're not savages. We're not animals. We are humans and we are Americans." All right. So, of course, these celebrities, these people, they, they're going to do a lot of virtue signaling, right? They're going to go against the grain, and, try to be the most woke. It's pretty much a battle of who's the most woke, right? Especially since these award shows happen a lot of times in Los Angeles and, and in the West Coast, where these liberal parts of America, and it's pretty much a battle of who's the most woke here. So a lot of celebrities, I suspect, are going to be, downing ICE, downing Trump, and things like that. So let's see what else. So that's what Bad Bunny said after winning his Grammy. We have Best New Artist goes to Olivia Dean. I don't even know who that is. So after Kendrick Lamar won his Grammy, he says, "It's an honor to be here. Hip hop is always going to be right here. We're going to be having the culture with us." All right. So Kendrick Lamar, shout out to Kendrick. I don't even really listen to rap hip hop anymore. I guess as I get older, I just find all of that music demonic. Not only demonic, but just not, if it doesn't have substance, it's not worth listening to personally. If it sounds good, okay, cool, I understand, but a lot of that is just, spiritual warfare on you as well. You're listening to a lot of, lyrics about people talking about killing people, drugs, and degeneracy just in general. And a lot of these songs, especially a lot of rap music, So, I'm careful about what I, expose my ears to these days, and also what I watch too these days. I've been trying to just, filter out what's good for my soul and what's, just brain rot. There's a lot of just, pointless entertainment out there that you just watch and you don't feel better after, right? Your spirit, you just feel, worse, or, like you're not making progress, I guess. So that's how I feel about, the music industry and what's going on with music a lot, But for best pop vocal album, we have Lady Gaga with the album Mayhem. All right. After she won her Grammy, Lady Gaga says, "I just want to say for women in music that I know sometimes when you're in the studio with a bunch of guys, it can be hard. So I want to urge you to always listen to yourself. and always fight for your ideas, fight for your songs, fight for yourself as a producer, and make sure you're heard. Okay, so more virtue signaling, but I mean, it's a good message to the young women out there in the music industry, I suppose. Best record goes to Kendrick Lamar, GNX. I didn't even listen to that. Like I said, I'm out of the loop. A lot of these albums. And this was one that I did hear about, right? So Billie Eilish goes up on the stage after winning her Grammy and says, "Nobody is illegal on stolen land. We need to keep fighting and speaking up. Our voices do matter. F ICE is all I want to say." All right, so the virtue signal queen here. My thoughts on this is, shut up, Billy. You don't get to tell people, you don't get to, tell people what you think is right and wrong about ICE. And I'm getting a call. Hold on. It's my caregiver. Hello? Hello?
Hey, you all right, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, you want me to come back?
No, I should be good. You should be good. Yeah, I'm good. I'll be all right.
So I'll see you tomorrow at what time, MJ? I'm leaving the funeral. Coming back.
Yeah, let's see. I think they have you, I think like they said 9 to 4, but we could do like around, like not like 10, like around 10:30.
Okay,
11.
good to me, MJ.
Yeah, 10:30, like somewhere around there is good.
Okay, so you don't need me to come back because I'm checking on you to make sure you're good, man.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you, MJ. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, man.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Bye.
All right, man. Shout out to my caregiver. I let her go a little bit early today. I wanted to hop on this pod, and I like having an empty house when I podcast. I can, I don't feel like someone's, I don't mind people being around me when I podcast or make content, things like that. It's also helpful sometimes, but a lot of times, it's cool to just, have the house to myself and, be at peace. As I get older, I value peace more and more. So just, being a bachelor is the most peaceful thing. An empty house, a quiet house is a good house for me. But back onto these Grammy news. All right, brief intermission there. Billie Eilish. All right, nobody cares what you think about ICE or politics. Just shut up and make music. All right. So this chick right here is a multimillionaire. Living in Hollywood. Living in a $1 million, probably multi-million-dollar house with multi-million-dollar cars, trying to tell people, that, that she doesn't find anything wrong with she doesn't like, rather, what ICE is doing in the country. And my thing is, you're so out of touch with illegal immigrants. Probably, you probably haven't had an illegal immigrant within a 50-mile radius of your house. Okay, so the ICE, what's going on around the world with illegal immigrants, and that it doesn't even affect you. So it's just virtue signaling. That's all it is. She wants to seem like she's doing the moral thing. And it makes sense. Most of her fan base is probably young women or older women or liberals, in that case. Left leaning people that probably hate ICE, and probably hate our country as well and our president. And I'm not the biggest, fan of what the government does a lot of times. and we're going to talk more about that in this episode. You know, what's going on around the world with our government, but you know, just stay out of the politics, Billy. All right, just just yeah, just you don't have a dog in this fight, you know. So just stick to making your music, you know, and stick to being pretty on the internet. But yeah. So we have Olivia Dean, after winning her Grammy, says, "I'm up here as the granddaughter of an immigrant. I'm a product of bravery, and I think those people deserve to be celebrated." Okay. Billie Eilish wins Song of the Year with Wildflower. All right. Album of the Year goes to Bad Bunny, The Beat, Terrar, My Photo. And Bad Bunny is actually going to be performing at the halftime show this Sunday. So the halftime show for the Super Bowl, that is. So, you know, there's a lot of controversy surrounding that as well. You know, he said his things about ICE. Obviously, he's a Puerto Rican citizen, I believe. Is it Puerto Rican or? Yeah, I believe it's Puerto Rican. Let's look that up. Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's nationality.
Bad Bunny is Puerto Rican. He was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and he's become one of the most famous Latin artists.
Yeah, so he's one of the biggest artists in the world, Puerto Rican. It's actually a U.S. territory. So, you know, a lot of people who are complaining about, you know, they need an American for the halftime show. You know, why would they pick Bad Bunny? Well, technically, he is an American, right? You know, just, you know, he has Latin music. Obviously, he's Latin. So we'll see how that goes. I don't care either way who performs at the halftime show. So just give me a good show, right? Now I think Turning Point USA is actually hosting their own halftime show in retaliation to this, to him performing at halftime. I believe, but yeah, I'll just go ahead and watch the halftime show. I don't have time to be going back and forth, you know. It doesn't matter that much to me. Just put on a good show for me, Bad Bunny, and we're solid. All right. Best pop solo performance went to Lola Young with Messy. All right. And that is all of everything you missed this week for the Grammys. All right, so now we're gonna start getting into what's crazy, you know. So some of the most shocking news that we've been waiting to hear. The Epstein files have been released, ladies and gentlemen. After years and years of sitting on the Epstein files, the government decides to release the Epstein files, right? Obviously, very sinister, satanic things going on with Jeffrey Epstein, and everything that he, you know, his legacy that he left behind. He's going to be living in infamy, obviously, for years and years and centuries to come, based on all of the, you know, pedophile, blackmail, you know, things surrounding him and his island, all the celebrities that he blackmailed and who he was in cahoots with, right? Many believe that he operated with, you know, some of the richest families in the world, the Rothschilds, and others alike. And we know these type of people are the people that run the world, right? So Yeah, this is obviously controversial. So YouTube might demonetize this episode, but YouTube doesn't pay me anyway, okay? So the only reason this show exists is because of the real ones that support me on Patreon. So if you rock with this podcast, go ahead and support me there. All right, so these files that have been released make Diddy's case look minor. All right, so yeah, we should just jump right into it. We have Donald Trump to take legal action against Trevor Noah following the Grammy Awards joke that he made. So continuing on with more Grammy news, also related to, some of the Epstein file stuff going on. Apparently, Trevor Noah, the host of the Grammys, made a joke. So let's see exactly what he says and why Donald Trump got triggered. All right, so Donald Trump says he will take legal action against South African comedian Trevor Noah after a joke made during the Grammy Awards referencing Epstein Island. All right, so let's hear it. Here, let me give it some volume.
Billie Eilish. Wow. That is a Grammy that every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland, which makes sense. I mean, because Epstein's Island is gone, he needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. So, I told you it's my last year. What are you going to do about it? Song of the year.
Okay, congratulations. So Donald Trump has been, allegedly, and maybe not so allegedly, proven to have been at Epstein Island and to be, friends with Jeffrey Epstein. So yeah, funny joke. I thought it was funny. He needs a new island to go hang out at Greenland. That's, clever joke. Free speech we have in America. You should be allowed to say things like that. And, the old saying, if it wasn't true, it shouldn't hurt you, right? So if it's not, if it ain't true, then it shouldn't hurt you. So apparently, Donald Trump took offense to the joke, and he claims that he's gonna sue him for it. I don't think he probably would. That'd kind of be pointless. But Trump says, "I have never been to Epstein Island. I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope." All right, so Trump not too happy about it. But he is all over the files, right? I think he's named in the Epstein files more times than Harry Potter name is listed in all of the Harry Potter series, right? That's what I heard. So, obviously he was doing something, right? Whether or not he went to Epstein Island, that'll, probably come to the light eventually, right? But the files have been out now for probably about a week now. So, it's millions of pages of documents, emails, and things like that to go through. A lot of names have been redacted to where you can't even tell where a lot of these emails are coming from and who Jeffrey Epstein was actually communicating, who he was communicating with a lot of times. But the messages are clear, and names have been exposed. And one of those names is Donald Trump over thousands of times in those emails. So Donald Trump tweets, "The Grammy Awards are the worst, virtually unwatchable. CBS is lucky not to have this garbage litter their airwaves any longer. The host, Trevor Noah, whoever he may be, is almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel." We know Trump and his beef with Jimmy Kimmel. So it's almost as bad as Jimmy Kimmel at the low ratings Academy Awards. Noah said incorrectly about me that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton spent time on Epstein Island. Wrong. I can't speak for Bill, but I have never been to Epstein Island nor anywhere close. And until tonight's false and defamatory statement, have never been accused being there, not even by the fake news media. Noah, a total loser, better get his facts straight and get them straight fast. It looks like I'll be sending my lawyers to sue this poor, pathetic, talentless dope of a MC and suing him for plenty money. Ask little George Siopotis, Slopotis, anyways, and others how that all worked out. Also ask CBS. Get ready, Noah. I'm going to have some fun with you. President Donald Trump. All right. So Trump not too happy about his name getting slandered in front of thousands at the Grammys. I thought it was funny. Some of the comments here says, what happens to upholding free speech? This comment says, Trump says the most heinous things about people but can't take a joke. Yeah, I know, right? It's, it's probably not a joke, right? He probably definitely was, allegedly. Of course, got to protect myself as well. I don't need a lawsuit, but, I got a small little podcast. So I don't think too many eyes are on me as of now. So I can kind of say what I want. And so, yeah, I think Trump, he probably was messing with these little girls, allegedly, right? Or maybe have been to islands allegedly, right? So, you're not mentioned that many times for no reason. And if you're still a diehard MAGA fan at this point and you're not realizing that, these elites, these celebrities, are all, selling their souls. And, they're fighting for Satan, then you should open your eyes, right? Because there's something way more sinister going on in Hollywood as it's been exposed, right? And as these files will continue to expose. So let's get into some more of these Epstein files. Okay, so breaking, the Epstein files are public. Here are the powerful names nobody expected to see. All right, so these files obviously do not equal convictions. They are records, testimonies, contacts, flight logs, photos, and mentions gathered across years of investigations and lawsuits. Being named or pictured does not mean guilt. It means proximity, access, or appearance in documented material, and that distinction matters. What shocked people wasn't just the documents, it was who kept appearing across politics, finance, royalty, tech, media, and entertainment, circles that almost never overlap publicly. And here's the thing, folks. We don't know exactly everyone that probably, who was in contact or worked with Jeffrey Epstein or, was used by him in this blackmail grand scheme operation that he performed. But we do have some names, right? So some names have surfaced, some celebrities, right? We're not going to know everybody. This is just the tip of the iceberg, obviously. But let's get into some of the names that were mentioned in these files. All right. So we have Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Larry Summers, Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, Robert F. Kennedy, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. All right. And apparently Elon was, begging to go to some of the parties on Epstein Island, allegedly. Richard Branson, Crown Prince MBS, Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger, Chris Tucker, Stephen Hawking, all right, just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't stop anything from taking a little trip to Epstein Island, I guess, right? Narendra Modi and Sultan Ahmad, just to name a few. Obviously, there's a lot more elites that have probably been protected and redacted that we don't know about. But what's unsettling isn't the name, it's the pattern, right? Epstein wasn't powerful because he was rich. He was powerful because he moved freely between elites, politicians, billionaires, royalty, scientists, celebrities, without scrutiny for decades, which raises the question, how does someone like him gain access to so many guarded worlds at once? Who vouched for him? Who protected the network long enough for it to grow? This isn't about internet accusations. It's about systematic blind spots where influence replaces accountability. The files don't close the story. They expose how power clusters, how reputation shields, and how silence sustains systems longer than truth ever could. All right, so guys, what this pretty much should tell you that, you know, the most famous people in the world, they're not there because of talent a lot of times. They're not there because of, you know, their ability to make an impact on the world. They're there because they've sold their soul to Satan, you know, for power and for fame, right? So, let's see. Someone in the comment says, Michael Jackson knew the truth, that's why they killed him. Yeah, okay, that definitely, I saw something with Michael Jackson, you know, basically stating, you know, that they were trying to blackmail him. You know, and before he died, right, there was all the cases with him in, you know, being a child predator, right? Which, you know, now you have to question, right? You know, was he actually like that, or were these elites, you know, blackmailing him because he had too much information, right? He knew too much, right? And so, this person says, being mentioned in the documents doesn't mean that Modi or MJ was involved in Epstein's crimes or had any relationship with him. Many public figures can appear in the files just because Epstein tried to connect with them or reference them in emails or business political context, right? Yeah, we know that. So this guy says, I did a fact check and it is important to do the homework rather than believing in everything the internet says. Right, so do your own research. Obviously, right, the files are out now, so you can publicly go and look at them. Although a lot of names are redacted, as I stated earlier, you can still go and read and see some of the stuff Epstein was, you know, conspiring with, some of the people he was conspiring with, and some of the things he was talking about, which will continue on here. So what is in the Epstein files, the key revelations so far? All right, so another 3 million documents in the Epstein files have been released by the U.S. Department of Justice. The release includes further revelations about the late billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell, Andrew Mountsbaugh Windsor, and Lord Mandelson, the former U.S. ambassador, right? So this guy is obviously in connection with, you know, the elites, you know, princes, you know, financiers, you know, royalty, you know, as we know, presidents. So it's very dark, and it raises the question: who else is in, you know, behind the shadows that we don't know about, controlling the world, and you know what other islands are out there, right? So we know about Epstein Island, but we know that's not the only island out there. Probably, you know, that these elites meet at and you know, do pedophile acts, sacrifice children at, you know, and do other blackmail, you know, sinister acts with each other in order to hold power over each other and essentially control the world, right? Who else was Epstein working with, right? A lot of speculation out there points towards his involvement with the Israel. With Israel, obviously, he was a Jew, or is, a Jewish person. So he's obviously, being protected by Israel, of course, and the, elite in Israel, obviously. So we'll continue on. Bill Gates. All right, so this is some of the information that we've found from the Epstein files. Some of the revelations so far. So Bill Gates apparently caught an STD from Russian girls. Epstein claimed in the files. Draft emails on Jeffrey Epstein's computer accuse Bill Gates of planning to give his wife Melinda antibiotics surreptitiously. Bill Gates denied it as absurd and completely false. All right, so of course he's going to deny it, right? Trying to protect his character, but he's, why else would Jeffrey Epstein be making this up, right? Obviously there's blackmail and other things going on like that, but as Kanye West famously said, why the fuck would you go to that island? All right, so yeah, he was in connection with them. All right. We have Andrew Mountbatten Windsor appeared to invite Epstein to visit him at the palace a month after his release from house arrest. In quotes, says, "Delighted for you to come here to BP," Andrew wrote in the email on September 29th of 2010. And let me see what's going on. Okay, cool. All right, we have President Trump is mentioned hundreds of times in the new files, according to the DOJ website search function. It is not yet clear what those mentions relate to, but he has consistently denied wrongdoing in relation to Epstein, right? So, and I think honestly, you know what? So Trump, he pretty much campaigned on releasing the files, right? That was one of his things. Well, during his campaign was, release the files. If I get elected, I'm gonna release the files, right? And all to come, as it turns out, he is, listed in these files. Not once, not twice, but hundreds and hundreds of times. Actually, I believe the number is over 5,000 times, which is horrific to think about, right? I even saw an email in the files that said, where Epstein says that Donald Trump is the most evil person he's ever met, right? Which is a lot coming from someone like Jeffrey Epstein, right? Let's continue on. More horrific stuff in the files. Ghislaine Maxwell, which was pretty much Jeffrey Epstein's handler. I believe she did a lot of recruiting for Jeffrey Epstein, and I think she's still in jail. Yeah, she's actually currently in prison for her involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. But Ghislaine Maxwell, here's her mugshot, which has been released for the first time. The never before seen mugshot was taken at the time of her arrest by FBI agents in 2020. All right, so that's what she looks like. Here's the eyes of the devil right here. And yeah, I think she did a lot of recruitment, celebrities, little girls for Epstein, right? So little girls and boys. obviously. So horrific stuff. Very satanic. And what this goes to show you guys is that if people can do these awful things, these horrific things, you know, sell their soul for the devil and carry out his acts here on earth, that must mean that God is real, right? So if the devil is real, then the good news is that God is real, right? So get right with God, right? This should you know, show you that, you know, what's here on this earth is only temporary, and that there's a spiritual warfare going on, you know, good versus evil. And you need to get right with God and get on the right side of the fight, right? Because there's a spiritual warfare out there. They want your souls. They want you poor. And by they, obviously, I mean, let's say they, I mean the elite, you know, those that run the world, those that want control over, you know, your soul, like the Matrix, right? They use your energy and your life force to carry out, you know, evil operations here on earth, so that they can, you know, have power here. But the real power is after, right? It's in the afterlife. It's going to heaven, you know, and, you know, having eternal life with God. So we have more information surrounding the Epstein files here. New Epstein files say Trump has been compromised by Israel. Okay, so in the newly released Epstein related files are circulating online, with some accounts claiming that which rather include a declassified FBI source report alleging that President Donald Trump was, quote, compromised by Israel, and that his son-in-law Jared Kushner wielded outsized influence behind the scenes. All right, so let's see what they have to say about Trump being compromised by Israel. All right, so here's the file right here. So obviously a long report right here from the FBI, but what I'm gonna do is pull this up on my phone because I cannot see that on my computer. 1 second, folks. Get this. Yes. All right. So what that highlighted section of the file says is, although redacted, I can read it a little bit. Beverly Hills home from Trump and inflated was Harry's house when Trump told them that he was going to, quote, fuck Amazon over their military contracts. CHS advised that this was a real collusion story. Trump has been compromised by Israel, and Kushner is the real brains behind his organization and his presidency. All right, so if you didn't know by now you know that, you know, the president does not make decisions, does not hold the power. It's really pointless to vote at this point, you know, because the president doesn't run the government, right? The people in the dark suits, the elite, you know, run the president, right? So it's all smoke, you know. It's all to confuse you, really. You know, that's also why they always, you know, make it a left or a right thing. It's to keep the people divided, right? If the people were to come together and realize who is really in charge, you know, then there would be riots, and that's not what they want. There would be an uprising, if people knew the truth. So what they do is they keep you confused, separated. They tell you it's the left's fault, tell you it's the right's fault. These are all false flags, right? To keep you distracted from who is really in control. And what we now know is that it's a bunch of elites in the shadows, holding, pedophile rings and worshiping Satan. And, and they want your soul as well. They want you to be separated from the truth, right? They don't want you to know what's really going on and who's really in control, obviously. So this person in the comments says, tell us something we don't know, right? This person says, released after Trump backed out of attacking Iran, by the way. So yeah, apparently, Trump has been, as we know now, controlled by Israel, right? We do all of our bidding for Israel. That's why we give them so much support, right? Is because Israel, they are, and their elite are actually, infiltrated in our government, right? Our government is ran by Israelis. We've been compromised, the U.S. has been infiltrated, and we now, it's not America first, as we thought it was, right? It's Israel first, right? We put their, their needs, their ambitions before ours, and we do our bidding. Their bidding. They pretty much use the United States and its power and its influence to their advantage, which is to, eventually spread their lands, their, operations to a greater Israel, right? They want to take over the world. Really, that's why they're committing a genocide in Gaza currently as we speak, and using American tax dollars to fund it, and American missiles and so on and so forth, right? So very dark stuff. I've always been one to state that we don't need to be, giving Israel any funding. It should be America first. And the fact that, 99% of our politicians are compromised by Israel should now let you understand that, it's been the United States of Israel for so long now. This person says in the comments, every president since JFK had been compromised. Yeah, that's also why they, killed John F. Kennedy, is because he refused to submit to the will of Israel. And what happened? He went bye-bye, right? They assassinated him. And by they, I mean the IDF and CIA in cahoots with the U.S. government. Same thing with Charlie Kirk recently, right? Apparently Charlie Kirk was, starting to take away his support for Israel. And a couple days later, he gets executed publicly in front of everybody. And then they, of course, try to make you believe that it was some kid on a rooftop, which, by the way, I don't know what's happening in that case, right? He's obviously an actor in this situation to distract you from who really assassinated him, which was Israeli operatives within his camp, right? I know how it happened. It was a pager attached to his chest, which was set off by a detonator, which shot out a projectile that went through his neck, right? And we all saw that happen not too long ago, right? That's the most recent Israeli assassination, right? So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, I would never kill myself, right? I love my life. You just have to say things like that because, you're not, no one is safe from this. You speak too loud on social media and you realize that your account gets banned if you speak against Israel, or you get, what they call it? Not, what's the word for a shadow ban? That's it. You get shadow banned, right? So recently, TikTok was actually bought by let me get the facts straight on who recently purchased TikTok. So yeah, TikTok uninstalls spike 150% after Larry Ellison, who was in a Jewish investor, obviously, he purchased TikTok, and so they've been censoring messages containing the word Epstein. TikTok users also report that political videos and even messages have been restricted since the US app has been taken over. So yeah, guys, the you-know-whos are in control of our tech. AI, ChatGPT, is also a Israeli-owned company. Well, let me find out exactly who runs ChatGPT, because I saw recently that if you put the ChatGPT sign together, the symbol of ChatGPT, it makes the Israel logo, right? The flag for the flag. So if you put two ChatGPT symbols together, it makes the star that you see on the black and white, the blue and white rather, flag of Israel. So let's find out who owns TikTok.
TikTok is owned by ByteDance, which is a Chinese tech company.
Okay, so it's not owned by. So I meant to say who owns ChatGPT. Who owns ChatGPT?
ChatGPT is developed and owned by OpenAI, which is an artificial intelligence research lab and company based in San Francisco.
Okay, so ChatGPT is obviously compromised as well. They're not going to state, the exact people behind it, but we all know who runs these tech companies now. And, it's in plain sight. They're not hiding it from you anymore, and they don't care. And the reason they don't care is because they know, the average person, you're not going to do anything about it, right? They've been dangling this in front of our faces for the past couple of years, and now that they finally released the files, there's a reason, obviously, that they did. Some state that it was because Trump doesn't want to, invade Iran and attack them, which the reason is, the reason that Israel wants, the U.S. to attack Iran so bad is because they're the last standing, country in the Middle East which can, fight against Israel, and what they want to do, which is expand their lands in the Middle East, right? So they're the last people. That's why we worked so hard to demilitarize Iran and stop them from getting a nuclear weapon, right? Is because they would have the capabilities to fight against, Israel and everything that they want to do. And the Zionist operation, which is, which we're living in, and the genocide that they're committing is, all over the internet. If you go on any social media app at this point, you realize that, people have awoken to what's going on, especially with the release of these Epstein files. And, the evil that going on with Epstein, he obviously was in cahoots with the IDF and Israel. So it all comes back to Israel and the evil, that, and the evil Zionist operatives and operations, which they're using to, spread their agenda and their pro-Israel Zionist mission, right? So it's not a coincidence that the files have been dropped. At this point, they realize that people aren't going to be able to fight back. People are too busy, being debt slaves, right? Working all day, not able to feed their families, right? People are too busy, worrying about bills, and getting poisoned by the food system and the fake food. Now, I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but just hear me out. Hear me out here, folks. People are too, busy with their lives to even be able to start a revolution, even if something so sinister like the Epstein files were to be released. And a lot of these people, a lot of these celebrities in the files will probably never even be, brought to justice. Now that the files have been released, we need to now, hold these people accountable, right? These celebrities and these, politicians or whoever else is in the files, we need to now bring them to justice in court, and they need to face, the full extent of the law. So, continuing on here, we have anonymous 2019 online post claiming Epstein was taken alive into a van the night before officials claimed he died in his jail cell appears in Epstein files. Bang, man, oh man. So, did we really think that the man with the most, dirt on all of these, celebrities and other high-ranking officials around the world, did we really think that he would kill himself in his jail cell? Do we really? That's what they want you to believe, obviously. But we'll read more on it. But as we know, one of the obvious pointers that he didn't kill himself is he's an Israeli, and they, Jews have full, protection in Israel, right? So all he has to do is leave, go back to Israel, and we are no longer gonna be able to, you know, hold this man in shackles, and you know, have justice, right? He has too much dirt on people. You know, he knew too much, and still does, to just kill himself, right? I don't think he has, you know, the fortitude to be able to do that anyway. But the camera apparently goes out for several minutes around the time that he was reportedly said to have killed himself. Right, so let's read on. So the same morning, hours after the body was discovered, but around the time that death became public, an anonymous 4chan poster claiming to be an MCC insider employee described unusual activity the night before. The message states, "Not saying anything after this, please do not try to dox me, but last night after 04:15 count, they took him medical in a wheelchair, front cuffed, but not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not do releases on the weekends unless a judge orders it. Next thing we know, he's put in a single man cell and hangs himself. Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number. And a guy in a green dress military outfit was in the back of the van, according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I am shaking right now, but I think they switched him out." All right, so there you have it, folks. Pretty much just letting you know right there that he didn't kill himself. His body was switched out with someone else, and they put him on the first plane to Israel or whatever island, probably, whatever else island, probably, another island where they do, where he can live, protected. So, pretty sick. It should open your eyes to this point, which, on the war of good versus evil and the spiritual war that we are currently living in. All right, so reading on, this says, the day after Epstein's death, U.S. Attorney Geoffrey Berman opened a grand jury proceeding. They issued subpoenas to 4chan, Apple, AT&T, and Citibank. The goal was explicitly to uncover the poster's identity because the claim came from someone claiming insider knowledge of prison activity right before the official death announcement. All right, so yeah, they took him out, replaced his body, and sent him on the first plane to God knows where, probably Israel, where he's probably living now scot-free with, others who are being protected under the Israel ecosystem, echo chamber. So this person in the comments says, "We knew Big Steen ain't dead." Someone says, "Y'all really believe he's dead?" This person says, "They got bro a whole new island." This person says, "I did the autopsy. I can assure everyone he's not alive." So that guy's obviously trolling. He's probably not the person who did the autopsy. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Epstein is still alive. All right. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Live on the StormCast. All right, so continuing on with surrounding the Epstein files, let's unmask Bill Gates from building computer programs to depopulating the world, right? And so this is related because obviously Bill Gates was, stated in the Epstein files multiple times. He's said to have gone to that island. He was planning and continues to plan world depopulation, folks. They don't want you here if you are not rich and elite. That's the bottom line, right? So this post could disappear fast. Bill Gates didn't just make Windows. He built a lifetime plan to shrink the planet. He makes viruses, sells the cure, and smiles on TV. Leaked emails, his own speeches and money trails prove it. Swipe to watch the nerd turn into the Antichrist. All right, so we're gonna read on. Guys, I don't know if this pod is gonna be monetized, or obviously I'm not monetized by YouTube anyway, but if this is gonna be flagged or not, how long it's gonna be up here. But yeah, I love my life, guys, and I would never commit suicide. All right, let's read on. In the 90s, he sold buggy windows full of holes. Then he made billions selling antivirus for the same holes. Same trick now. He funds labs that make super viruses, then funds the vaccine companies that, quote, save us. He even ran a pandemic practice game in 2019 event 201 months before COVID hit. Coincidence? I think not. All right, folks. So we all know now COVID was a scam to sell vaccines, right? And I hope you out there listening didn't vaccinate yourself, right? Because you're injecting yourself with God knows what. And we know now that a lot of people have had side effects with this vaccine that they pushed in 2020. And for those of you who didn't get the vaccine, congratulations. You passed one of the most recent psyops in recorded history, right? So very sad stuff. A lot of people did die in relation to the vaccine, right? And even if you didn't die from COVID and you were in the hospital, they marked up the deaths by stating anybody in the hospital that was there and died. Pretty much they pretty much said it was because of COVID, and we now know that wasn't true, right? So let's see what this TED Talk has to say.
Population. Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. Now, that's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. Now, that's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on...
All right, folks. So that's Bill Gates, at a TED Talk, doing a TED Talk speech, stating himself in 2010, if we do a really good job on new vaccines, we can lower the world population by 10 to 15%. So these guys, these elites, they don't want you here. They want to reduce the population. So Bill Gates, he owns the biggest farmland in America and pushes GMO seeds that make you sterile, corn that can't reproduce, equals people who can't reproduce, right? So very sinister stuff, very satanic agenda. As everyone in the Epstein files has been exposed pretty much to be in cahoots and cooperation with, right? So it's not just Bill Gates that thinks this, that we need to reduce the world population. It's most of the elites believe in this, right? And what they do is they create food that makes you sterile so that you can't reproduce, and vaccines, that kill you and make you sick. So let's continue on. So you've never been shown the truth, the disturbing things that would sacrifice for the goals. You have to see through the illusion they've created, allowing you to step above their control, and we've exposed exactly how. So this is the final boss level. Computer kid became vaccine king, became farm landlord. Or here, one sec. I have this heater on in my room, and I'm about to turn it because it's getting hot in here. It's getting hot in here. So take off all my clothes. I'm getting hot. So hot. I'm gonna take my clothes off. All right, folks. Let's continue on. So he smiles while the numbers drops. Next shot, next seed, next bug released. Bill doesn't want to feed the world. He wants fewer mouths to feed. His shots in Africa and India left thousands of kids paralyzed or dead. Court papers and village records show it. He buys the World Health Organization, buys the news, buys the silence. Mosquitoes with his vaccine genes are already flying in Florida. One bite and your blood carries the code. All right. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, these people want your soul, and if they can't have it, they'll just kill you, make you sick or sterile to where you can't reproduce or you die. So dark stuff, ladies and gentlemen, doom and gloom, very doom and gloom this episode. But I'm here to bring you the truth. And somebody has to speak the truth, right? And, I'm not afraid to die. I know I have God on my side. I have God in my heart. So here I am bringing it to you. All right, here we go. So let's continue on. So the Epstein files reveal that Jeffrey Epstein actually is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. All right, sound the bell. All right, so I've heard of Satoshi Nakamoto. It's like a clothing brand. But we have here Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. And as of recently, I think Bitcoin has dropped from around 120, 30,000 plus dollars per Bitcoin to now it's sitting at about $65,000 per coin. So I'm guessing this is in retaliation to the Epstein files dropping and people realizing that they need to take their money from Bitcoin, because although we believed it to be a independent currency that can be owned by anyone, we are now realizing that of course it can, right? So recently a theory exploded on social media claiming that Jeffrey Epstein files allegedly prove he was Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious creator of Bitcoin. Fake screenshots of an email from Epstein to Maxwell mentioned Bitcoin and Satoshi quickly went viral, but experts easily debunked them as fake based on incorrect dates and formatting. In reality, the documents do not contain the name Satoshi and references to Bitcoin. And there is evidence that Epstein communicated with some cryptocurrency developers and invested in infrastructure such as Blockstream and MIT projects related to digital money. However, there is no technical evidence in the files that he wrote the Bitcoin white paper, committed code, or controlled early Satoshi wallets. So the headline Epstein files reveal that Jeffrey Epstein is actually Satoshi Nakamoto is a clear example of an internet myth, not real news. The world still doesn't know who hides behind the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and the non-existent link to Epstein only adds noise to one of the most intriguing mysteries of the digital age. All right, so more confusion. Going around the files, but here we have an email that Jeffrey Epstein is actually Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. So here we have it saying, "Hi, Bine, Ghislaine, the quote Satoshi pseudonym is working perfectly. Our little digital gold mine is ready for the world. Funding secured." And this is back in 2008, right before the launch of Bitcoin. Let's find out exactly when Bitcoin was launched, right? When was Bitcoin launched?
Bitcoin was launched on January 3rd, 2009. That's when the first block, known as the Genesis block, was mined by Bitcoin's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto.
So, ladies, this is in 2008, October of 2008.
Yes, that's right.
Right before the launch of Bitcoin in January of 2009. So it seems to add up pretty well for me. All signs indicate that, Epstein knew about Bitcoin. See, the subject even says Project Bitcoin funding and white paper. So, guys, Bitcoin is compromised at this point. If you want to put your money in a Bitcoin, after seeing this and realizing, the darkness behind it, that's, up to you, but I won't be putting any money into Bitcoin. Yeah, some people may see it as opportunity. I never have put money in a Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, that is, so I don't plan on it. If I do put money into anything, it will be in assets, physical assets such as gold, silver, and yeah, I'll keep my dollars. Although money is fake in general, but it is backed up by gold and silver. So yeah, let's continue on. All right, we have more email, yada yada. All right, so this seems pretty important actually. So it says here, Sandhill Exchange invented the Hill currency out of necessity. Trading on Sandhill Exchange is very fun. But if the coin attained even the nominal value of a Satoshi, Iranian rial, or Farmville dollar, our exchange would quickly become among the biggest threats facing financial regulators. All right, so for this reason, if we ever learn or anybody trading to trade coin for anything of value, we'll kick their ass. And we ask you do the same. So this is an email to Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. And the fact that they redacted these names kind of doesn't sit right with me, and probably shouldn't sit right with you either. Is, you know, they released it, but you don't know exactly who, you know, was in cahoots with them at this time. So, you know, of course they're gonna, this is just the tip of the iceberg. They're gonna, you know, since we already know about Jeffrey Epstein, why not just expose him? But they're not giving you the full truth, right? They're just feeding you, you know, a little bit to satisfy you. But, you know, the full truth, and everybody involved in this satanic agenda that, you know, Jeffrey Epstein was involved with and currently still is, more than likely, to rule the world and to steal your soul. You know, these people are still out there, right? In the shadows. All right, so this is a file that reveals Jeffrey Epstein actually is Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. All right, so do your own research, folks. You know, these files are very extensive and long with a lot of information that I cannot cover all of it, obviously, in one episode. I'm doing my best to kind of give you a general overview of what's going on around the world and the spiritual war that we are currently living in. But do your own research, folks, and educate yourself, because that is, you know, what's most important. So we'll continue on. We have here Epstein files reveal that Bill Gates was planning pandemic simulations with Epstein in 2017. All right, we just read that. So yeah, now we know that newly released documents from the United States Department of Justice's Epstein files reportedly include draft emails from 2017 that reference discussions about pandemic simulation and related topics addressed to Bill Gates. The files, part of a massive cache of materials published under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, show unverified correspondence in which pandemic-related planning and hypothetical technical scenarios were mentioned in an email thread. These documents do not prove any wrongdoing or actual collaboration, and there is no evidence that Gates actively participated in pandemic simulation planning with Epstein. Oh, but he just talks about it. Right, so they're protecting these people, right? These elites obviously hold a lot of power in our society. So a lot of people are being protected. And they're not giving you the full truth. Right, so it's important to do your own research. Representatives for Gates have denied other unrelated allegations found in Epstein files as, quote, absurd and completely false. Experts warn that such draft emails and claims should be interpreted with caution until independently verified, as the files contain notes that were not necessarily sent or confirmed by the individuals named, okay? So let's read some of the comments here. This person in the comments states, says, so pandemic was an inside jab all along. All right, so nice play with words there. We'll continue on though. We have a reel here from Instagram. And let's add some volume. And see what this person has to say about you know, who's controlling the world and everything going on.
Dude, this whole thing about the you-know-who's is really starting to freak me out.
Dude, it's not even that deep. It's just the world is ran by an ancient inbred cult of Satan-worshipping pedophiles who are using blackmail and imaginary money to stay in power.
Yeah, you're right. It's not that bad.
Yeah, dude. We're totally fine.
Dude, this whole thing about the you-know...
Yeah, I mean, he states it perfectly, guys. You know, these elites, they control you with money and pretty much just use you as slaves, you know. So take that as you will. Let's see what else we have here. All right, so guys, that's it from my coverage of the Epstein files. I'll be bringing you more as more and more information comes out and people become more and more enlightened to what's really going on in our world. But, you know, all that being said, there is hope for the world, right? When there is evil and Satan working, that means God is also working. He's also real and he's also out there, right? So you choose what side you want to be on. I choose to be on the side of, you know, good and Christ. And I believe Jesus is king. And, you know, God is what you should seek because he is the truth, the light, and he's what's right. And he's how you should choose to, you know, replicate your life through, right? So we have positive news going on around the world to cleanse your algorithm, right? So with all of that Epstein file news, you can, you know, listen to some of this and, you know, have some hope for the world, right? So first up, for our first topic of the day, we have, you know, some positive news going on around the world. So we have a rare twin mountain gorilla was born in the Congo, Virunga National Park, boosting conservation hopes. All right, good news. Shout out to the baby gorillas being born in the Congo. Scientists are growing millions of corals to restore damaged reefs in the Dominican Republic. All right, more good news. North America's largest wildfire crossing opened in Colorado to ensure safe animal migration. All right, very cool. We have the Antarctic ozone hole shrank to its smallest size in 5 years, signaling recovery. All right, so apparently our ozone is repairing, which is good news. We have stingless bees in Peru became the first insects granted legal rights to exist and thrive. All right, so we have bees getting rights before GTA 6. We have Colombia sees early signs of forest recovery as deforestation rates continue to drop significantly. All right, so the rainforest in Colombia recovering. We have next, Brazil launched a new conservation program, empowering local communities to protect the Amazon rainforest. All right. So that's some good news for you there, folks, to, you know, give you some hope for the world. So that's always good to hear. Good to see that there is good going on around the world. All right, so coming up next, we've got another topic, which is interesting. We have new U.S. dietary guidelines. All right, so the United States just announced new dietary guidelines and created a new food pyramid. Here's what changed. Okay, so we were always taught the food pyramid when we were younger, stating which foods are best to eat, which foods you should eat in moderation or avoid. Okay, so the U.S. food pyramid has officially been flipped. For the first time in decades, federal dietary guidance no longer puts grains at the foundation of the diet. The updated pyramid places protein, dairy, healthy fats, and produce at the top, with whole grains reduced to a supporting role. All right, so, the fact that we had it wrong for so many years is troubling, probably why we have so much disease and obesity, around the world. But, better late than never, right? So, this is the opposite of the 1992 food pyramid. The original pyramid emphasized bread, cereal, rice, and pasta as the dietary base, with meat and dairy positioned as secondary. The new model deprioritizes refined carbs and shifts focus toward nutrient density rather than calorie volume. All right, so before we prioritized, which foods are going to, give you the most calories, but now we realize that it's all about, nutrient density. Which foods are best for us and provide the most nutrients and, benefits, oils, vitamins, things of that nature. So there you have it, folks. There's the old food pyramid, which they probably taught you in school if you grew up, before, grew up in school where they taught you nutrition. So protein is no longer treated as optional. The new guidelines recommend 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, a range far higher than previous federal minimums. Protein is framed as the foundation of meals sourced from both animal and plant foods and paired with natural fats. All right. So fruits and vegetables are emphasized. The guidelines stress whole, minimally processed fruits and vegetables in their original form. Targets are set at 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit per day, with limits on juices and sweetened options. Okay, so prioritizing real food, guys. This is what, they should have known, you would think, for, forever now, but, whole grains are good, refined carbs aren't. Carbohydrates are no longer the base of the diet. The guidance encourages fiber-rich whole grains while explicitly calling for a significant reduction in refined and highly processed carbs, suggesting intake ranges from 2 to 4 servings per day. Ultra-processed foods are now a main target. The guidelines directly discourage foods high in added sugars, refined starches, artificial sweeteners, dyes, and preservatives. Notably, they state that no amount of added sugar or non-nutritious sweeteners is considered part of a healthy diet. So this is a policy reset, not a trend. Led by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the update frames diet-related disease as a systemic failure rather than individual choice. These guidelines will influence school meals, military nutrition, federal food programs, and public health messaging for years to come. All right, so shout out to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I believe he is the head of our nutrition for the government, or however you say it. So he's doing obviously good work. He obviously was a good hire. he's bringing common sense to the food pyramid and to our nutrition, and that's a good thing for our health and our overall well-being and society in general. So shout out to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. doing a good thing there, resetting the food pyramid. So yeah, y'all let me know what your thoughts are on the new guidelines. This person in the comments says, I see no problem with this. Anyone who frequents the gym, plays sports, etc. understands this pyramid. Absolutely. As an athlete, you absolutely understand the value of nutrition and the importance of it. So guys, let's go ahead and jump into our next topic. Coming up next, we've got Gen Z isn't drinking anymore. Okay, so the alcohol industry is in collapse because Gen Z isn't drinking. The alcohol industry has lost over $830 billion in just 4 years as Gen Z drinks less than any generation before them. Recent data shows a sharp drop in alcohol consumption between millennials and Gen Z. Younger consumers are prioritizing health, moderation, and well-being, choosing to drink less, drink smarter, or not to drink at all. Instead, spending is shifting toward experiences such as traveling, music, and lifestyle, weakening long-term demand for traditional alcoholic drinks and forcing the industry to rethink its future. In nightlife and electronic music culture, the shift is already visible, from sober raves and wellness-focused events to communities built around connection, sound, and experience rather than alcohol. So, in my opinion, guys, really good news. That Gen Z is realizing how stupid it is to get drunk or rely on drugs, right? And you can attribute a lot of this more than likely to social media and people realizing the value of looks maxing and health maxing, and realizing how that you don't need drugs to have a good time, or to dance, or to talk, or be out there or whatever. So I think this is a great shift in the world, and I love to see it. This person in the comment says, good, but the drug industry is booming. Good for Gen Z. Me and my friends drink for them. This is also what happens when life gets too expensive and drinks are $20. You know what? That's a good point there. This could also be attributed to, people are having less money, right? People don't have the money to be, just be spending on alcohol and drinks, right? If you want to save up to buy a house, you can't be spending on, alcohol and drugs, things like that. So very good point from that user right there. All right, let's move on to our next topic. We have China is taking over. Sound the alarm. China has taken the lead over the US and the world in 10 major industries. All right, so let's find out what these industries are. We have steel, robotics, drones, automobiles, shipbuildings, trade, high-speed rail network, nuclear power, rare earth metals, and solar power. So China's hold over global manufacturing is no longer just significant, it is a structural. So the numbers point to a level of industrial concentration that no modern economy has matched, placing China at the core of how the world produces goods. Today, China accounts for more than half of global steel output, a foundation material that underpins construction, transportation, and heavy industry worldwide. Beyond raw materials, it has emerged as a dominant force in advanced manufacturing, leading in robotics deployment, consumer and military drones, commercial shipbuilding, and automobile exports. In several of these sectors, Chinese firms now operate at a scale that compresses global pricing and reshapes competitive dynamics across continents. This dominance has not come from labor alone. Rapid automation has transformed Chinese factories into highly efficient, technology-driven production hubs. Massive investment in ports, railways, highways, and energy infrastructure has reduced internal friction and enabled exports to move faster and cheaper than rivals. At the same time, state-backed industrial policy and long-term planning have allowed manufacturers to scale with a speed rarely seen elsewhere. The result is a supply chain gravity effect. Components, raw materials, and finished goods increasingly flow through China, even when final assembly occurs elsewhere. For many industries, from electronics to electric vehicles, decoupling is no longer a simple political choice, but a complex economic challenge with real cost implications. China is no longer just the world's factory floor, it is a central architect of how goods are designed, produced, and distributed. As global trade patterns continue to evolve, its manufacturing ecosystem is not merely participating in globalization, it is actively redefining it. All right, so this person in the comment says, but we have the most genders. That's funny. These comments are undefeated today. This person in the comments says, yes, because Jews aren't ruling in China. So, that's just another example of the awakening of people on who's really running the world. All right, so shout out to China out there doing their big one. Hopefully the US can follow suit here and start to dominate in some of those industries, right? So for our last topic of today, let's wrap things up with a good one. We've got how music improves performance. All right, so music is actually a performance enhancing drug. Did you know that? Did you know that music is actually a performance drug? It helps stroke victims walk again. Rhythm stimulates auditory motor circuits, helping paralyzed patients walk instantly by syncing to the beat. Singing when you cannot speak. People who lose speech or aphasia can still sing because music uses the brain's undamaged right side. Bass makes you feel powerful. Songs with heavy bass make athletes feel dominant, leading them to take more risks and win. I realized that like before track meets or even like football games, on the trips, you take the bus to the football game. If you're traveling, you listen to some good music with some bass, some rap music, with some good bass in it, and you feel powerful. You feel like you can dominate, so I definitely can attest to this as an athlete. So you use less oxygen with music. Your neurons sync to the beat, making your muscles work more efficiently while lifting weights. All right, so music allowing you to have more oxygen in your muscles. Interesting. Natural opioids in the brain. So listening to your favorite tunes releases natural opioids, dulling physical pain during hard workouts. All right, so that's our episode, folks. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We have Elgrin Pingen who writes W. All right, so W's in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. As always, the StormCast is everywhere you can find podcasts. So subscribe on YouTube, drop a 5-star review on Spotify, and follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Rumble. Your support on Patreon also keeps us going strong. All links down in the description below. I want to thank everyone for tuning into today's episode. I know last week I said we were to have a guest, but the guest, didn't come through as expected. So that person is no longer the guest, obviously. So, but we will have future guests in upcoming episodes. So stay tuned for that. As always, if you want to support the show, you can support by clicking that link down in the description, hitting that Patreon link, and joining the Patreon family for only $5 a month. You can support and also get plenty of benefits such as behind the scenes footage that I'm not able to post on YouTube. And you can get merch on there, ask me questions. We talk as a community, and that's really one of the best ways to get at me too, is on that Patreon. So if you want to ask some questions or share some feedback or your thoughts on today's episode down below, I encourage you to do that. Let me know what you thought, good or bad, any topics or that maybe I'm missing or that you want me to talk about or cover in the next episode. Let me know down below. And as always, I want to leave you guys today with 2 quotes. All right, so the first one is, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. All right, and that's a quote from the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius. So what he's saying here is that if this was your last day, right, would you waste time on petty arguments? Would you lie, procrastinate, or hold back your love for someone? Would you live small or live with honor? So basically, let that determine what you do and say and think. He means to use death as a filter for your choices. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing worthy of my limited time here on earth? Is what I'm saying true and necessary? Is what I'm thinking making me stronger or weaker? All right, so we have another quote from Marcus Aurelius, which goes, think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live properly. So what he's telling you in this quote is to imagine that your old life is already over. All the mistakes, regrets, and fears and labels you carry, that version of you is done. Then he says, now take what's left and live it properly. Okay, this meaning you've been given a second life, a bonus round. So stop acting like you have forever. Stop letting shame or fear control you. Stop living on autopilot. Stop clinging to who you were. Both of these quotes to me say the same thing from 2 angles, right? You can die at any moment, so live with purpose now. And since your old life is already over in your mind, live what's left with honor. One warns you of death, the other frees you from the past. Together they mean act like time is short and fear is gone. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, carve your own lane, create your own path in this life. Fuck the haters, fuck the naysayers, anyone who doubts you, who says you can't do it. It's been an awesome episode. Shout out to everyone. Shout out to the Storm Squad. I love you all so much. Stay blessed, stay beautiful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye, everybody.